331 or 347.
All I know is you got me up early.
Blow by, oil leaks, way too loose.
Well, this is a Cobra intake. I feel like I'm a celebrity around here. Do you want to see 331, 347? Hello and welcome to Gearhead 704. I'm Matt and we're in an unusual place today. Today is a very special day. Not too long ago, pulled out the engine out of my blue car out there, which I think you can see. Yeah, there it is. Tar Heel Fox. Pulled out the stroker. I was burning oil, losing coolant, and I had an engine ready to go that I was gonna put in my SSP, right? And I documented all this on the channel. Put the SSP engine in, and I wanna use the stroker in the SSP itself. And here we are, and today we're at Kannapolis Engines. As you can tell by all the different engine parts, and we've also got a couple cars in the showroom. Got an old Mustang, Stingray Corvette, that's a C3, I believe. And I'm not sure the year on the Mustang, obviously 60s Mustang. But yeah, so that's where we're at today. Adam is here at the shop, and so we're gonna be going some things with him on my block. We want to find out what exactly went wrong with the stroker. Now, Matt and I had a theory. We thought the heads were warped, right? And that was part of it, head gasket issues. But today, we're going through everything here because that's what they do. Adam at Kannapolis Engines, he rebuilds motors. He does all kinds of things. So he knows exactly what my engine needs. And I'm going to take you guys along with the journey. So it's pretty cool. Let's go ahead. I'll introduce you to Adam and yeah, we'll get started. But I'm pretty excited to find out what was the real cause of my oil consumption. We're going to find that out today. Check it out, guys. Look at everything in here. All this engine builder stuff. It's pretty cool. I mean, we got cylinder heads sitting everywhere. It's pretty awesome. Okay guys, I'm here in the back with Adam Kannapolis Engines. He's already getting started on my heads. He's just going to work here, but Adam, we've known each other a little bit. I know you haven't been on camera a lot before, but appreciate you looking into the engine. And today, I believe the plan is we're just gonna kind of go through everything and try to figure out best we can where the oil consumption was coming from. Is that right?
Correct. We're going to see if we can find the oil consumption. You also mentioned some water in the oil, so we're going to pressure check the cylinder heads. We're going to magnaflux the block, inspect it, see if we can find any problems with oil consumption. We've already done a little bit of pre-measuring and found a couple of loose cylinders. We're going to measure the pistons and confirm that the cylinders weren't intentionally set loose to match larger than normal pistons.
Right, because each piston could be set with a cylinder to, right, some could be larger and others slightly, right?
Correct.
Okay.
But the amount of clearance that I'm already seeing in the cylinders, I don't think that's what we're going to find. Okay. But everything's going to be checked.
Very cool. Well guys, these heads he's going through now, like you said, we've already done a couple things off camera. We've already checked my block sitting over there. We've already checked how big the bores are on that, and we're gonna check the piston's neck, just like you said. But this is gonna be fun today. Like I said, we're gonna find out exactly kind of what went wrong or do to our best of our ability. I do know these cylinder heads are not gonna go back on this engine, but they might be used for something else. So we'll see, stay tuned for that. And we do have one other person hanging around today, Matt. Fox Resto, is that where you work? I don't know.
Something like that. All I know is you got me up early.
That was me, that was all Adam's fault. So. Adam likes to do stuff on Saturdays. We're bringing him in here on Saturday. He doesn't normally work on Saturdays, so. Pretty cool. We're getting the inside peek today, guys. It's gonna be fun.
Feeling for valve seal drag.
Yeah.
Even though the seals are old, dirty, and ugly, there's still plenty of drag on the valves. Guide clearance feels good. I've got no wiggle, so the oil is not going down the valve guides like we suspected.
Okay.
So we're going to move on to checking the block, checking the rings, the pistons, and
checked.
see if we can find the oil consumption somewhere else.
Okay, and you already checked this head.
That head's been checked as well. All the valve guides feel tight, so what we're going to do from here, the rest of the disassembly, just pop the seals off, pull the valve spring retainers out, pull the valves out. We'll clean the valves, regrind those, clean the heads, pressure check the heads, grind the valve seats, resurface. One final inspection and cleaning on everything, and they're ready for reassembly.
Okay, and the coolant still could have maybe been going through the heads, you think?
Coolant definitely could have come from the head gaskets or
right.
the cylinder heads. Edelbrock heads are not very likely to crack. We will pressure check and look for cracks in the heads, but I don't expect to find anything there.
What about any warping of the heads?
We can check that right now.
Oh, cool. Because that's, Matt, that's kind of what we were thinking. Maybe it might be a little warped. So.
Yeah, and the only thing, you see how much longer his straight edge is?
Yeah.
So he can get a much more accurate check, because my straight edge is only about like 10 inches.
Right.
I really don't see it coming down the guides.
Okay.
With all this build up, I'm guessing PCV system, because for it to get to the intake valves, these rings, we would see dirty exhaust valves. Coming through the PCV system, we're seeing dirty intake valves.
So that would have happened after we put the PCV valve system in?
Could have been either one. If you had too much flow through the PCV system after installing it, that could cause it.
Okay.
or if it just had a hacked PCV system before.
Yeah, before it had none.
If your intake gaskets didn't seal, it could have been pulling that oil out of the crankcase. At this point, it's a little too late to say for sure.
Because we already disassembled it, yeah.
It's just one of those things, we're going to cover it all before it goes back together.
Okay. What I'm doing here, guys, is Adam showed me how to test the drag on the valve seal, and it's pretty tough, which is what you want, is what he's telling me, so you don't have to, like, if it came all the way off, really smooth, it'd be bad, right?
If the seal is old and hard,
yeah,
it's going to slide. It's going to feel more like plastic sliding on there instead of rubber. That rubber drag that you're feeling,
yeah,
that's what's telling you that the seal was sliding, gripping the valve.
We're just going through everything today, guys.
We've got the head stripped down to bare. I've scraped all the gasket off, took a sanding block to it just to make sure we didn't have any burrs to give us false checks. There's a 1/1000 feeler gauge. I'm just going to lay the straight edge on it and see if the feeler gauge will pull out. The feeler gauge is tight, so there's less than 1/1000 warp on this cylinder head. And we'll just check it near water ports between cylinders, which is where we're most likely to see low spots. And everywhere we're checking the cylinder head, she's flat.
Which side cylinders is this, 1 through 4 by chance? 5 through 8 had a lot more of the oil consumption as far as the spark plugs.
This one is passenger side. Passenger side is 1 through 4.
Yep. Okay. So yeah, that kind of makes sense. I think it's the other head. I mean, we'll see. This one's looking good. He's checking everywhere.
Yeah, it was between 6 and 7 that blew out.
Yeah, so we think it might be on the other head, but we'll see. You have a much better straight edge there than what we were able to test with. So still looking good everywhere.
The head looks good. It has been cookie before, or somebody's used a surface conditioning disc or a roll-off wheel or something.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing a few spots that are ugly, so we will be resurfacing these heads for sure and get a nice smooth surface for the head gasket.
Okay, but it wasn't enough from the cookie on that head to really cause oil consumption.
Nope.
Okay.
Definitely not causing the oil consumption or the water in the oil.
Do you recommend ever using a cookie on these? I'm just curious.
Never.
Okay, never. That's what we thought.
Hey, you've heard that
even
before.
Yeah, I have.
Even a cylinder head that we know is going to get resurfaced,
Yeah.
we've got a gasket scraper and then just a small sanding block to deburr. Never a rotary tool on gasket seating surfaces.
Okay. All right, so we got the second head.
And same situation. She's nice and flat. Checking around all the water ports, down the center, down the outside. Got a little drag right there. About 1/1000 warp, which I could actually pull it there. We can find that sweet spot again. Nope, might have had a little trash. Nope, there it is. One little spot to the outside that we've got about 1/1000 warp. And if that would have been a leak, it would have been a compression leak to the outside, no water there. So definitely not causing a problem. The gasket was covering that.
What if the gasket was blown out there?
If the gasket would have been blown out there, you'd have known it. You'd have had all kinds of compression blowing out of the outside. You'd have thought exhaust leak. But she wasn't blown. The gasket was containing it.
Okay.
It could have been the cookie because I'm seeing some swirl marks right here. There could have been an ugly spot in the fire ring that somebody decided to grind out with a cookie. And luckily the gasket held it, but I'm going to say that's probably the use of a surface conditioning disc. Has a low spot in the cylinder head, not so much warped.
Everything else looked pretty good though? Other than that one
Everything else
spot?
checked great.
5 and 6, that's where you saw an issue, wasn't it?
Well, that's where the head gasket was completely blown out.
Right.
Blown between cylinders or blown?
Blown between cylinders into the crankcase into the valve valley.
So that would have been to the outside, so that's not the
it was,
flow that you're
you
seeing.
can see right there where I kind of did some scraping right there. It was completely blown out right here.
Around number 6?
Between 6 and 5, yeah.
She's tight there.
I'm sorry, 6 and 7.
6 and 7?
6 and 7.
Nice and tight.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where the head gasket was. I mean, it was completely just gone.
So that would have been our water issue, at least, probably, right? The head gasket
The
gone
head
there?
gasket would have been the water issue.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, guys, we just got done looking at the heads and figured out that that was not our oil consumption issue. We're pretty sure it's our water issue. So I think now we're coming to look at the pistons. Hey, I made it on the board. 331 Matt FMR, that's gotta be me. All right.
Yep.
I have to change it to gearhead because it might be
I
yours.
don't have one in there.
No?
So.
You don't have your stroker in here yet? Where's your
No.
stroker? I'm gonna change it to gearhead. I'll just do GH704. No, I'm not gonna mess with this stuff.
Don't confuse me.
Yeah, I know. See, I know. I need to stay away. Maybe I'll just add dash GH704 over there. These are my pistons. Which, Adam, you said you like DSS pistons,
I
right?
do like DSS pistons. I use a lot of them. Pistons measuring 25.5 for a 30 over bore. If we had an exactly a 30 bore, that would be 4.5 clearance. But we don't have a 30 bore. We have a 33 bore for 7.5 clearance, and that could definitely be our oil consumption issue.
Okay.
25.5.
One of them I thought was even like 34 maybe. I don't know, we'll have to check it again. I forgot to put that on camera, guys, when we check that. Maybe we'll have Adam show us real quick. We'll check the block in a couple areas, the space. We're talking about the space in the cylinder walls. He's checking each one right now.
That one's about 25 3/10.
They're all coming around 25, aren't they?
About 25 and a half, 5 and a half.
Well, you wouldn't get much done all day if there's somebody following you really this whole day. And Matt, I remember you were checking, you were wondering about that, the piston, if it was too small for the cylinder.
Yeah.
25 and a half. That was number 4 that was the loosest cylinder?
Yes.
And 4 had the most.
Number 4 had the most oil consumption.
Yeah, it did. It did. It had the most on the spark plug.
25 and a half. Where did that number 4 get to? Right here. Let's double check the number 4. That one was about 25 even. That's the 25 and 3/10. So our loosest piston so far is in our loosest cylinder so far, with about 8,000 piston to cylinder wall clearance. Way too loose.
What do you want to see for piston to cylinder wall clearance?
I'm usually going to set them up around 3.5 to 4.5 depending on application.
So you're talking double the maximum spec.
Wow.
Actually, the number 4 ring, for the most part, is broken in and looking good. I don't know how close we can get with the camera, but the black line up at the top of that second ring, the second ring is your oil control ring. Both top rings are considered compression, but the second ring is a tapered face. So the black ring we're seeing up at the top of that ring is a taper that's going to slide up over the oil, and then the square edge down at the bottom that's making contact with the cylinder first is going to scrape oil back down. So our bottom ring will lubricate the cylinder. It's got holes drilled into the piston here, so oil gets into the ring from the backside, lubes the cylinder, and then that second ring's primary function is to scrape that oil back down and not let it into the cylinder. And if we look all the way around this ring, we've got a nice little black line at the top. That tells us that ring was still controlling oil, and if oil was getting past this piston, and it probably was, it was because the piston was rocking too much in the cylinder and letting that ring lose its scrape.
Okay, so the ring itself
So the ring
okay.
itself is great.
I really broke the engine in. Like I drove 500 miles before I ever got into it, guys. I don't know if that matters for break in, but.
But the rings look perfect. It's just too much cylinder wall clearance is letting the rings spill compression and spill oil.
Slapping around in the cylinder like that, can you see wear indication on the skirting on the piston?
Pistons look great. If we had a nice tight cylinder to put it back into, I would absolutely reuse that piston.
Yeah, but I'm not going to be able to use them because my cylinder walls are already too big, right?
Yep, we will be honing your block to 40.
Okay, so we're going bigger. So that means I'm going to need new pistons.
Yep,
Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
be installing a 40 over piston instead of 30.
Okay. All right, new pistons. This is also my stuff, guys, because this is my dampener. This came off the DSS block. I guess it's a level 2. This is just what, a main girdle, let's call it.
Yep.
This is my cam. I know that, but so I wasn't sure if it was a comp XC274HR, but you said it was, right on.
Yep, part number's right on the back. 35518-8.
My lifters, my bearings. What do we got here?
Had Clevite main bearings in it, Clevite racing rod bearings. I'll be reinstalling King bearings. I prefer aluminum and tri-metal. And there's the cam bearings. A little bit of wear in, but not worn out. Everything in the bottom end, other than the piston to cylinder wall clearance, so far is checked out perfect.
Okay. Would you reuse them, or you put new? Oh, you said you are going to put different kind of brand
We can
bearing.
measure them and reuse them, but I don't like a tri-metal bearing.
Yeah, we're already down.
Die-hard aluminum bearing. It'll get a nice set of Kings in it.
So someone else could use these bearings and those pistons for a 30 over build, potentially?
They could, but as cheap as bearings are,
Yeah, always replace them?
You replace them.
Okay, all right, cool. I didn't know that. Now, this cam itself, is this going to be a pretty good cam to reuse? Is that? I feel like that's the only good part I might have in my intake, you know.
We'll key in all your specifications, the desktop dyno, play with a bunch of different cam profiles, and see which one sets it up best for the RPM range you plan on running for this build.
Okay. Well, the cool thing is anything I don't use, I can reuse on another build, because now I'm realizing I got pistons I can't use anyway, so I'll just save all the parts and use them on something else. I got to build a drift car, right? That's what you're saying.
Exactly. Everybody needs a drift car 3.
Okay. Adam likes to drift, so we're going to go see him drift one day, but maybe he'll talk me into drift build. I don't know. Somebody has a GT 350 I've heard about. Turn that into a drift car, Matt.
Oh, I'm sure it'll do great.
All right, guys, here is my block. Now, we already measured this, but we want to go ahead and show you guys. And the cool thing is, you can see, it's a DSS block, level 2. That's what it says there, but I don't know. I still wouldn't want to put over 500 horsepower in it, but Adam's going to come and measure, and you saw what we were measuring, 25.5 on most of those pistons, but number 4 was actually 25 and like 3/10 or something, whatever he said on camera. So he's going to measure these, and we'll see what our clearance is. Again, you like about, what, is it 4 thousandths?
3.5 to 4.5, depending on the application.
Okay.
An actually aspirated build, usually about 3.5 on a stroker. near the top of the cylinder. 0 will be 30 over. So there's 32 thousandths over, and we're getting down towards the bottom. Looking for the spike. So when this needle spikes at the top, that's our measurement. And I'm rolling over center, so I'll make sure I get the peak measurement. Down at the bottom, we have about 1.5 thou extra clearance. Now keep in mind, when our pistons are measuring 25.5, that's down here at my thumb. So the needle would have to come all the way around here to get to 25.5. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 thousandths clearance when we're measuring.
And you like 3.5 to 4. We're at 6.
Earlier in the cylinder, right there.
That's even more, yeah.
That's 4 inches, 33 thousandths. For a piston that measures 4 inches, 25.5.
Almost 8.
Almost 8. 7.5 thousandths piston to cylinder wall clearance.
That will absolutely cause some oil consumption.
That's going to cause the piston to rock and let the ring spill oil from bottom to top and compression from top to bottom. That could cause blow-by, oil leaks, all kinds of issues. Overwhelm the PCV system and then put a lot of oil in through the PCV valve into the intake, and that could be the oil and carbon buildup we're seeing on top of the valves is just too much blow-by, overwhelming the PCV system and giving us dirty intake valves.
Yeah, I was gonna say we saw that on the valves, they were dirty, so it's all making sense, unfortunately for me. No, it's good. I figure out what's causing it. So
all right, I'm gonna get the block over to the home. We're gonna put a couple of torque plates on it, or a single torque plate. We'll have to move the plate from side to side, but we are gonna torque plate home this block from 33 to 40 over.
we're going 40 over in every single cylinder, right?
Yes, sir.
Cool. What will my displacement be in this block after? It depends on what crank we get, I guess, but
Yeah, we've been discussing 347 or staying 331 stroke,
okay.
which would put us at 333 or 349 cubic inch.
Okay.
Depending on the crank and rod combination.
So usually your 331, your 347 is like 30 over.
30 over.
But we're gonna go to
we're gonna
330.
add about 2 cubic inches, going 10 thousandths over.
Okay, so a 333, 349 makes sense. All right, I've never seen a block home before, guys. This is gonna be fun. I'm gonna set you guys up on the time lapse and let's watch it work. One other good question that I'm gonna go ahead and ask Adam, because I know you guys are gonna ask, is why are we not gonna go ahead and bore it some more? Because we're just honing it. All right. So the reason why you're not boring it is because we're at around 30.
Yep.
We're going to 40.
A little looser than 30 right now. We're averaging about 32 on this block.
33 in one case, I think.
Yep.
Yep.
So I'm not going to bore 2 thousandths out of this because we're going to want to hone 4 to 5 thousandths out of the cylinder walls. So I'm not going to set it up in the boring bar to hone 2. We're just going to put some core stones in the home, and with the torque plates on, it shouldn't take very long to hone 8 thousandths out of it and make a nice 40 over bore.
Cool. Will it be exactly 40 in each one?
We're going to get close, and then
okay.
we're going to stop and talk and decide what we're going to do with pistons.
Okay.
And I should have pistons on the shelf. We'll measure those and set our clearance perfect.
I got some decisions to make today then.
We're going to jump in line. That block would be going to the surfacer,
Yeah.
getting the decks refaced, and then going to the home, but we're going to jump.
Oh, we're gonna move
forward
ahead.
in line.
We're gonna, all right, Adam's putting me ahead. I like it. I feel like I'm a celebrity around here just because of that. So Adam's got our piston here and he's measuring it.
Piston measures 4037.5. We're going to go 3.5 clearance, and that's going to be exactly a 4040 bore. So we'll set the bore gauge up at 4040.
And you were saying if it was going to be, if we're going to use nitrous or turbo, how would that change
we're going
that?
to add boost, add a
Yeah.
power adder. We would add extra clearance in. So
Okay.
we're going to set this thing up at 3.5 thousandths clearance, which would be perfect for a naturally aspirated stroker. And we would stretch that clearance on out to about 4 thousandths to 4.5 thousandths piston to cylinder wall clearance if we were,
A little bit more, yeah, for spray and boost.
Yep.
Got it.
if we needed the safety built in.
A lot better than 8. That's all I know, Adam. It's a lot better than 8.
Anything's better than 8.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're about done with honing on this one side here. Adam just changed the stone. You went to a finer stone for the last one, right?
Yeah, we took a coarse stone down to about 1/1000 thousandths to go. So obviously 0 is my size. So I've got about 12 10/1000ths of an inch to go. So about 1/1000 thousandths to go on that. You can see this is a much coarser finish.
Yeah.
And this is the fine finish. This cylinder's done. If you can see the bore gauge, we're right on size.
Okay, right at about 40.
That is 40 over right there.
Sweet, so that one's done.
That cylinder's done. This cylinder's done, and we've got about another 1/1000th to hone out of this one. We just started on this hole with the fine stones.
You said now I could feel something inside? Is it hot? It's hot over there, right?
Nothing's hot. It's
okay.
Ice cold. We got plenty of.
All right. So what should I be feeling? Just how smooth
how coarse that one is.
Okay, yeah, that's very. I feel that coarse.
That would chew rings. And
okay.
then this cylinder is almost finished. We're gonna follow it up with a brush.
Yeah.
Just to give it a nice little plateau.
That definitely feels way different. Oh wow, yeah, that's pretty cool. Guys, Adam has finished at least 4 of the cylinders. We're now 40 over there. But yeah, we're basically done. You saw that in time lapse. Got to do the other side. I'm not really gonna cover that because it's pretty much the same process. So we are gonna talk combinations later though today. I'm gonna figure out if I'm gonna 347, 331. Adam has a cool desktop dyno thing we're gonna check out. You say that helps with break-in?
Yes, feel the cylinders again. You know how much smoother it was.
Yeah.
Fine stones versus coarse stones. Just made it slightly smoother again.
You did the size you've done, right? Yeah, and then. Okay, yeah, I can detect a little bit of difference there.
Yep. It's called putting a plateau finish on it. We still want to have cross hatching, plenty of oil to the cylinders to lubricate the rings. But the more of those peaks we knock off, the less ring wear we're going to have on break-in.
Well, guys, we're back here up front. We just went through everything kind of on the dyno. I got some numbers to share with you. Dyno software, desktop dyno, not the real dyno. We're looking at 331 or 347. Kind of looking at both because at this point I have to order new pistons either way. And so I'm thinking about maybe going ahead and switching to 347. Got some numbers for you though. No surprise that the heads were the choke point like we thought. So what we did on his application, we just plugged in what my camshaft was and kind of my build, right? And I had 331 before. That flywheel, these are all flywheel numbers. I should have been making around 390 with those Edelbrock heads and about 430 torque. And of course RPM matters, right? It was a variable streetable RPM. It was around 5,500. Just by changing the heads, if I still went 331, just by changing the heads to maybe like some AFR 185 is what we were looking at, I moved from 390 peak to 453 peak. You can see how much horsepower that's adding. It's a lot, right? But that's at a higher RPM. I think that's around 6,500. So we have more apples to apples comparison. Let's look at it at the same RPM. Even then, we're going from 389 at 5,500 to around 430 at 5,500. So you're still looking at 41 more horsepower. So even on 331, you're getting a lot just by changing the heads. If we jump up to the 347 at 5,500, we're going from 389 to 440. So just look at that, that's like 51 more horsepower, right? And then it peaks even more, it peaks at 453. Now these are just numbers, just trying to give us an idea, a baseline, but the 347 is gonna have much more torque all the way through the curve. That's one thing we definitely noticed. And the heads are a choke point. So my question for you guys is, what do you think? You know, we are gonna change the heads no matter what. I'm not gonna reuse these Edelbrock heads. I validated their choke point like I thought, right? So the heads are gone. I don't know if I'm gonna go trick flow. I don't know if I'm gonna go AFR. I'm thinking about both. What do you guys think about 347 versus 331? If I go 347, I'm gonna have to purchase a new crank and new rods. That's about the only difference because there's a lot of machine work that Adam and team have to put into this, right? So what do you guys think? What do you want to see? This is for the SSP, like I talked about, the 80 SSP, you know, the FHP that one day, I mean, it needs a new cowl, right? So I don't know, will this cowl work? Probably not. No, we already got a cowl. What am I talking about? Just got to weld it on. Yeah, that's kind of it for that. The big thing though, so let me know down in the comments. Do you want to see 331, 347? If you want to comment about the cylinder heads or whatever, that's fine. We're changing those no matter what. Which would you rather see though? But the really, really great thing today that I learned was why my engine was consuming oil, why it was consuming coolant. You know, we kind of figured out the coolant thing, Matt and I did previously, right? We tore the engine down, but that was validated today, right? The heads were a little bit warped in one spot, but not really. The way Adam looked at it, it wasn't really enough to cause an issue, but we did have a gasket blown out, right? And the head gasket caused our cooling issue. But it wasn't just the head gasket, it was also the oil. And our pistons did not fit. They were basically, there was like, Adam went over it, but I think there was 8 thousandths. And for NA setup, you want to get it closer, I think he said he liked between 3 and 4. Yeah, and so that was the big difference there, right? That's why we were consuming oil. The bore was bigger than the pistons. That caused my oil consumption issues. So that's really great to know what's going on there now. What I've got to do next, order more pistons, get it to fit that 40 over bore we did today. And I just got to decide 347 route, 331 route. This is not the first time I've used Adam, by the way, and I definitely trust him. You saw it. He went through everything with me today, which is awesome. So if you guys need anything done, engine building, and you're in the local area, you should definitely look up Kannapolis Engines. I will have all their information down in the description below so you can check it out, their phone number. They have a Facebook page. So check that out if you need an engine built. But yeah, that's about it for this one. I had a lot of fun here today, learned a lot, and I'm around all these go fast parts all day, which is cool. Oh, this is a Cobra intake. I just noticed this. Oh man, he's got a Cobra intake here. Okay, all right. Anyway, that's kind of it for this one. By the way, if you do end up using them, tell them Gearhead sent you if you call Kannapolis Engines. But yeah, that's it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the like button. If you're stopping in for the first time, please subscribe because you want to see what happens, what choices I make, because this engine is definitely going in the SSP. We're definitely going to do some road racing and some autocross, and I'm really excited about that. And that's pretty much it. We'll see you here next time on Gearhead 704. My bow seal.
Face because it...
Nah, you can get this. It doesn't matter.
That. Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, a 396 Chevrolet.
It's okay, guys. Maybe that's going in a Ford. Who knows? You want to check that out, Matt?
I'm good right now. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Stick your fingers in the hole.
Yeah, all right. I'll get dirty with the rest of you guys here.
I definitely felt the difference between the two.
Checks out. It's rougher.
Okay.